Hello, John Richter here from Financial Mechanics. Welcome to this video tutorial on fast mechanics, where what we're going to get up to is demonstrate expected fluency. Either what you should expect to achieve as you go through the course or what you have achieved from having been through your training in preparation for your fast mechanics assessment, particularly the speed test. So with that, let's talk about what we're going to do on this video. First off, I just want to make the point that this is not an instructional video. This is not going to be something where I'm going to teach you guys what to do. Unless, as I've sort of said here, out of habit I mutter to myself, I'm not going to be dictating keystrokes. Furthermore, I'm not going to explain any of the terminology that I may be using in describing what's going on. You will become or have already become familiar with the terms such as, series, links, blocks, placeholders, other comments I may make that will be part of the FAST terminology. As well, I'm not going to argue the design rationale for the approach that I'm taking. That will be better left to the FAST modeling standard itself or through your training. So what I am going to be doing is narrating a business case. We can pretend that I've got some sort of written script in front of me or a mental image of what it is commercially I need to get modeled. And to the extent I'm talking and narrating, it will be at that level. I will be sort of fluently executing keystrokes with my brain occupied at a commercial level, seeing if I like what I see on my screen, talking in terms of what modifications I need to make, those types of issues. To get that done in the sort of components that we're going to have, I'm going to go through what I've called here execution protocols. These are sort of modular components. To begin with, the four-step copy across execution technique, of course. That's kind of where we're going to get ourselves started. I'm going to work with links, both creating the links with 2 times the F4 plan, as well as pay special link. We're going to copy links, including putting them in and changing ingredients in some of the calculation blocks. I'm also going to demonstrate some navigation, hopping around on my screen with the usual techniques. We're going to copy and delete calculation blocks and sort of reorganize things and ensure that we are kind of fluently capable of such keystrokes or techniques as insert copied cells. I'm going to model with some placeholders, sort of take an opportunity to modify the pre-existing setup and see if we can, as we often say, hack things in a temporary way. Do a little bit in the context of those placeholders with editing some pre-existing formulas, both using trace arrows, but of course F2 in and out of edit mode appropriately. And finally, just to sort of emphasize the point that we're not going to want to leave our model in the shape that it otherwise looks on the sheet, to make the point of relocating inputs and possibly demonstrating how you should be using navigation as part of your pay special link. So with that, let's hop over to a model and see what we can script out. Okay, so here what looks like we've got is a pretty simple setup with a quarterly fiscal quarter time ruler and some inputs related to what look like Division A products and Division B products. And I'm glad to see the modeler is set up as headings for me to be able to navigate around in the sort of main sections. Looks pretty straightforward. Looks like we've got price anticipated to be multiplied by a volume to get to some sort of revenue. So the product one volume presumably is shipments or production in some sense. So we'll do a simple A times B, include our spaces of course, shoot that across, standard sort of plan. Revenues deserves a row total, and of course wrap up by taking a look at what we've got. And I can kind of stare at that quick chart and be comfortable that I've got a linear decline, and of course as well get some sort of sense of the materiality of that decline, dropping by almost 40% over the life of the forecast that we have. So I'm happy with that, and I can repeat that process again for product 2. Whether I continue to sort of do this manually each time, I think is open to question. If I had this sort of set up in front of me, I probably would not continue to do that manually, but here we are taking a look at product 2 with an increase of, interestingly, a little bit more than 40%, 4,000 on 10,000. Now, at this point, you might sort of say, John, this is looking a little bit crazy to be doing that every time. So I'll go ahead and just pop this down, but we might see what sort of issues arise with me not really having taken a proper look at each of those 3 remaining products. So there we are with Division A products, where we had a series times series construction, which seems to be decidedly different for Division B. So I'll go ahead and register myself up to the top here and go ahead and do a constant price, which of course is triple tapping, times a series volume for product 6, which seems to be the first product that is associated with Division B. We'll take a look at that and get ourselves happy that we've got quite a growth plan going on there, a bit of one anyway. Let's see, do this one more time so you get a sense of sort of the general, I don't know, comfortable speed you are aiming to achieve or by now have achieved. For product 7, again, we want to take a look at that, see if we see anything untoward. It does not look like there's anything particularly anomalous. Again, you must have a commercial sense of what you expect to achieve in order to be modeling properly. Unless you know the business case, there's no way that you can be comfortable with getting your modeling done. And I suppose I will take the same approach we did for Division A with Control V. Not often that you do a full Control V, of course, you know, holding on to what's in the clipboard, but this is one of those rare circumstances. A bit of an odd situation, really. And of course, we're going to not want to go much further without summarizing. So I'll go ahead and put a new main section in here for revenue summary. And by that I sort of mean that we need to pull the constituent components for each of Division A and Division B revenue, adding up the 5 products each for each of them. And hopefully I've kind of given myself sufficient area here for ingredients. I'll go ahead and just kind of mark what I'm up to. I think the most obvious thing to do is go ahead and pick each of them. So I'll use my control arrows, get on up here to the edge of these blocks, double tapping F4. So this is sort of plan A with respect to creating row anchored links. And you should be pretty comfortable picking off each of these labels and getting set to shoot them across probably as a block. I don't think there's really any circumstance where I wouldn't first model by getting the 5 labels in place of the constituent pieces in this case, shoot them across as a setup, refresh the screen, probably drop the shade at that point, and add them up with a simple Alt equals, shoot across. And of course we are not done until we have a look at what we've got on the screen. So let's have a look at this, and we're going to go, whoa, what is going on here? I might sort of get myself comfortable with some sort of offsetting effects of the up and down of the different components, with the kind of linear decline at the front and a little bit of a hump here at the back, but there was nothing I can understand from a business perspective that should cause this big spike. So we'd want to look into that, and in theory I should have already spotted that. It must be one of these ingredients, and I should have not waited this long or not taken this long necessarily to spot that problem. But you know, of course, better late than never. So let's take a look at all 5 pieces together here to see if we can spot kind of where the source of that might be. And I think it's fairly self-evident that it's sitting here with a green spike, which we can put our put our mouse on, get a tooltip on that. Series 3, to the extent that's not otherwise obvious. And dig into that a little bit. So let's just have a look at how we might behave with that. The first thing you might do is just kind of confirm it's project 3. So we go ahead and throw that up there, and yes, we see the spike there at position 10. You can see my mouse hasn't moved from its previous location. And hop it, and then perhaps take a look at each of its constituent parts. And what we can see when we pop a chart up of the constituent parts of that potentially problematic revenue is a little bit difficult to sort of pick up with the difference in scales between the price and the volume. But having said that, it's clearly not in Series 2, the volume, to the extent that that just has a pretty straightforward looking linear decline. And you know, if you know what you're looking for some problem, right, you'll pick up that it is a bit of a spike here for the Series 1, which is the price. And with that, I might not be able to go much further. You know, I can chart that and kind of convince myself, yes, I've got a problem there, but these were inputs given to me. So what you'd almost certainly want to do is not necessarily disrupt what you've got going on, but go ahead and mark that as a problem. Good opportunity for just throwing in a cell comment. Need to email Rick about what's up with this profile, something like that. All right, now with all that said and done, none of those operations necessarily keep me from hopping back to where I came from, and we can take a look at setting up for Division B revenue, where for no other reason I'm going to do the other approach to creating row anchored links, which is a paste special link. I'll go ahead and make sure I kind of know where I'm aiming. Never hurts to set up your territory here. And in this case, what we'll do is we'll go to each of the constituent ingredients, and we will create a link from their sources with paste special link. And it's a little awkward to do this, but doable. And again, just to demonstrate the fluency ideally you're hoping to achieve. Now, would I go up here and just click this? Very possibly. You know, it's not like I never use the mouse, but would I kind of come down here and click and do a paste special link? Probably not. You know, I'm just as likely to kind of come up here and come back down with control arrows, or however you want to do it, with my cursor movement keys. So let's see, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that is the picture I'm presuming is already indicated to me as the nature of Division B, its constituent products. And again, put a total on that. Always good opportunity to use an alt equals when you have these adjacent inputs. And again, we'll have a look at what we have as an answer. And here, nothing is leaping out at me as anything I'd need to follow up on, or otherwise anomalous behavior that is not easy to explain, we shall say. And here we might sort of say we have revenue summary by division. I'm going to slip my keys a little bit, but you know that happens. So can't be flawless all the time. So here we are by division, and we might make a comment that we could also be have a sort of a second dimension that we might be looking at, where we also have different areas of operation, that both of these divisions kind of overlap each other in different geographies, where I'll just go ahead and say we have geography X revenue and geography Y revenue. Possibly 5 ingredients again. We'll sort of make that pretense. But here what we'll do is just kind of make the note that this is going to be odd revenue, or odd lines, odd products maybe is the best thing to say. And we'll do geography Y here in a second with the even products. So let me just hold on that, come back. Now, to get the odd products, of course, I would copy pre-existing links. So there's product 1, product 3, and you'll notice that, of course, as we go with this full paste, we kind of clear our shade out, which is kind of a nice sort of checklist as to how we are coming along. And I don't know, yes, is this boring to watch? Perhaps, but this is sort of what you'd expect to achieve. And again, add those up, and yes, take a look at it for sure. We haven't necessarily seen the, I don't know, combination of these fellows. And again, we see the somewhat muted, in this case, spike associated with the email that we need to send off to Rick that we talked about before. So there's geography X, which are the odd products. For the even products, we will assume that's what goes on in geography Y. So geography, I can't spell today, but I will do my best, which is even products. Again, I'm going to pick up obviously 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, but you might take a slightly different approach, which is to collect up all of this mess. Okay, so this is a whole group, way more than we need or want, including, and I'll just kind of go back here to make the point, I've kind of even picked up this division A total in the midst of all this. But by taking this full block copy, of course, I'm getting all of the ingredients I need, and I can take a slightly different strategy, which is to remove what I don't need. So let's see, I want to get rid of the odd ones. So, and of course this dross in the middle, so there's 2, 4, 6, and you can see the advantage of just those labels being there. You know exactly what it is that you are aiming to get to. 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. There's no way that's going to be busted. These are good solid row anchored links, and we are in business. And I don't know, to the extent I had a spike on geography X, I'm not anticipating any problems with geography Y. And so ahead of seeing the chart, I'm thinking about what I probably expect to see. And interestingly enough, I have some behavior with respect to a change in slope that I do need to understand commercially. Okay, it may not be a technical problem or anything like that, but again, a commercial point that somebody's going to want to understand as to why that growth profile is somewhat oddly behaved. And of course, by the way we've constructed this with all the links going back to their source, we would expect to be able to potentially remove one of the divisions. Who knows, maybe division B disappears. Not sure who's going to manufacture those products, but the point I want to make is no disruption should be had with the other calculations. I can throw that back in with a Control Z. And that sort of demonstrates a quick setup, but of course models change over time. And we might have a situation where we now tell ourselves or need to forecast some new products coming in with Division B, let's say. Where with Division B we're going to add, I don't know, how about 3 new products. Product 6B, we'll say these are going to be variants on product 6. So I'll go ahead and, I'm not being very creative today, but we'll go ahead and make product 6B, 6C, and 6D revenue. And of course my idea here is to set up my pre-existing set of placeholders, and I should mark those with square brackets. You never know when you might be interrupted in your modeling. We can doubly confirm that our row total, I should say just our total here, is spanning across those placeholders. And now it's a matter of actually creating 6B, 6D, sorry, 6C and 6D. And of course we want to do that probably up in the context of the calculations we have, and to the extent that we are developing 6B from 6, we would take a copy of that block. Something's going to change about it. Of course we'd take advantage of our structure here, change 6 to 6B, save myself some typing with some good mechanics on search and replace. Of course this is still working, but we'd expect something different about 6B perhaps. So this becomes 14. Shows good opportunity for mislocated or temporarily mislocated inputs, allow you to kind of modify things a little bit more easily as you're developing a model. So there's 6B. It might be that a key difference of these variant product revenues is there's some sort of underlying inflation factor. So a good opportunity to put in perhaps some sort of revenue indexation that is separate from the underlying real price, we'll say, and the product volume pattern, where I'm just going to create a hack. Classic hacked placeholder, some sort of indexation factor indicated by the 4 decimal points there. And I'll just grow this first one at least by maybe 1% per quarter, just to sort of demonstrate some general inflation. And we could have a look at that on its own just to kind of get a commercial sense of what that really means over time. So there's a 20% increase from inflation over the span of our 20 periods that it looks like I'm modeling to. And of course that itself is not going to work if just throwing that in without modifying the formula, if I put up some trace arrows on that. So what we need to do is amend the existing formula, F2 edit, and then hop ourselves out of that, shoot that across. And now what we have is kind of an inflated picture of our earlier setup. So that is showing up with that kind of compounded increase. And that might be, 6B might be the sort of variant template, if you will, that we use for 6C and 6D. So here we are, we're throwing in 2 more blocks. We'll change 6B, of course, to 6C in this particular case. Go ahead and do that, get that out of the way. And kind of usefulness of Excel in this context is the 6B gets saved, which is kind of a nice feature. You can slam on Microsoft a lot, but they do a few things correctly when it comes to Excel. Oh, I don't know, maybe this is 16 bucks a unit and this is 20 bucks, and possibly even the hack is a little bit different in this last one. So you might do something simple as a kind of the second factor. Of course you want to make the label different if the placeholder is going to be different, and possibly less of an increase. So we'll go ahead and edit that hack up just to sort of do something a little bit differently. And of course this is a good opportunity to do some paste special links into our placeholders down here. So one of the advantages of these placeholders is that they allow us to use paste special link a little more effectively, because the space, if you will, for each of these is already in place. So we're doing some paste special links. A more obvious use of paste special link than my earlier example, to be honest with you. So with that in place, we have our new division B revenue. Of course we could remove some components if we kind of find out that product 8 and 9 have been discontinued as far as division B is concerned. We can just knock those out. Again, some ranges are quite durable in this respect, and of course you just want to be a little bit careful about how much you push that with some ranges, because if you put something at the top of the range here, that will not be caught within the stretch. And it's a good opportunity, in fact, to grab your mouse. So you get to take a little break from the keyboard from time to time. With an F2 on that, we can grab the handle and pull it. And I have to say, this is on my list of things that I do use the mouse for as part of my sort of routine operations. So that is adequately covering those ingredients now, and pretty much complete with respect to that operation. And just like before, to the extent we now have the 6B, C, and D elements, we could even pretend that 6C and D replace, how about products 6 and 8 in geography Y, and just toss those in. And of course nothing will be disrupted with the sum range, and in fact a copy in, a sort of paste, never really disrupts the formula. So you can swap in new ingredients all the time. Last thing I'd like to do is make sure that we don't think that the model kind of calculation sheet gets left in this sort of state. So let's go ahead and take some advantage of our input C sheet that we see there at the front of the model for our constant inputs, and let's relocate a few of these constant inputs. So let me go ahead and register my screen up to the top. Good use of control arrow for that kind of screen registration to these headings. You can kind of hop down and hop back up, and it knocks it to the top. So we'll take a copy of this fellow, throw it somewhere on input C, and of course paste special link is the natural operation for your input relocation, which in itself is a skill that you will want to practice quite a lot, this sort of specific input relocation. And the key thing about this can be not to continue to page around to your input C sheet. I'll do it one more time. But what you'd really expect to do, because you want to visualize that these models can have quite a few chapters, quite a few worksheets. And if I just kind of demonstrate the point maybe by throwing in a bunch of sheets, don't normally insert a lot of these rubbish sort of sheets, but here's a good opportunity to sort of do just that, so that we've got quite some distance between our working chapter 1 here and our input C. You're not going to want to page around on that. We don't want to click and sort of disrupt our hands on the keyboard with clicking with the mouse too much. So what you can do, or what you should do, is take a copy, go up here, hop to the source of that input, paste it down, Control C, F5, enter back to where you hop from, and paste special link onto this product 6C price. And of course each time I'm having to increase my zeros because the modeler did not format the entire row. By that I mean if he had formatted the whole row, he or she, doesn't have to be a guy, then we would not find that disruption when we came to do a paste special link. So I'll repeat that operation one last time. I'm getting a little bored, but like I said, you guys should be able to do this while watching CNN. You should be able to comprehend the news while you're sort of doing routine operations. That should be part of your fluent keystroking operation. As we sometimes say on the course, I still maintain that the best kind of driving test is one where you have to carry on a cell phone conversation while you're parallel parking or while you're slaloming through cones or something like that. If your driving technique is truly good, it means that your brain should be available for higher level thinking. And in the context of modeling, of course, that's crucial to be thinking, does this picture make sense? Does this particular picture for product 6D consistent with my understanding of materiality of $20,000 per quarter inflating over time by 5/20 in the sort of rough ratio sense, or if you prefer 25%. So that's the sort of general sense of things, which is where I will leave this particular working sheet, and just take a look at our quick checklist before we sign off. So recapping what we walked through, I think we covered off the 4-step copy across, of course culminating with the F11. We worked a bit with links, navigated around both on the sheet and cross sheet and doing the input relocation. We copied and deleted some blocks and modeled with placeholders, and did a little bit with editing up a formula when we put in that escalation factor, that indexation factors, and finally we relocated some inputs. And that is a list of sort of key components. Again, these execution protocols that you should be comfortable with by the time you finish the course. So with that, I will say goodbye for today and hope to see you on a future webinar.